and enjoying the learning of fabric manufacturing 3 lectures. So this is the new topic, uh, projectile looms. Projectile looms are one of the shuttleless weaving looms. So I shall discuss the projectile looms in this session. Session outcomes are: students will be able to describe mechanism of projectile weaving, demonstrate various parts and functions of a projectile loom, discuss cycle of projectile insertion, and the last session outcome is you will be able to compare projectile weaving with shuttle weaving. So projectile looms. The projectile weaving machine made its appearance in the market at the beginning of 50s and is today still used in this world entirely, in the whole world, and very popular weaving machine. Basically, this machine is characterized by a good productivity level. Its RPM is pretty high. You can say around double than that of the shuttle weaving, 450 RPM, and insertion rate is 1050 meter per minute. And by a high operational reliability, you can produce or manufacture fabric with a consistent quality and defect free. It is established specially in the field of machines with high reed width. Okay, where the high reed width is required means wider fabric you need to produce. For example, in some cases, bed sheets. The width of the bed sheets are much higher than that of the normal cloth such as sari. Okay, or shooting satin, the fabric used for shooting satin. So in that case, the normal reed width is actually 190 centimeter, but when the width is much higher than that, that is around 240 or 260 centimeter or higher than that, then maybe the shuttle weaving is not suitable. So in that case, the projectile weaving machines are most successful for wider width looms. In this weaving machine, the weft insertion is carried out by a small clamp projectiles, okay, which is shown here in this figure. These are called projectile. They are basically metallic elements and bullet-like elements. So these are called either gripper or projectile. Okay, or sometimes they are called also soldier projectile, because the soldier is the inventor of such kind of projectile systems. That's why they are called also soldier gripper or soldier projectiles. Which number depends on the weaving width. The number of projectiles used in a loom, a single loom, that depends on the width of the fabric. Okay, it's not like that a single projectile is used for the weaving or 2 or 3 projectiles are used in the weaving. Many projectiles are used during the weaving. Only one projectile will be used for insertion of the weft, and other projectiles they will just on the way to come in the proper position for the filling insertion, and which is their gripper takes out the weft yarn from big crosswound bobbins and insert it into the shade, always in the same direction. So in case of projectile weaving, only weft insertion occurs from a single direction, okay, from one side of the loom only. It is not possible to weft insertion from both sides of the loom. Like shuttle loom, you must have seen the shuttle picking can be possible from both sides, okay, from left side and right side of the shuttle loom. But the projectile, in case of projectile loom, the insertion of the projectile is only suitable from only one side of the loom. It is not possible to insert the projectile from both sides of the loom. So that's why after completion of one picking cycle by projectile, that same projectile should be brought in the either side for again its insertion. So that's why more than a number of projectiles are required, where where only one projectile will giving the insertion. Then after completion of its insertion, the same projectile should be traveled to reach to the picking point. That I shall discuss here in this slide, how the projectiles will come back to its picking position. after completion of the weft insertion. The first projectile takes and holds the weft in its back in the form of a tail. Here in this figure you can see this is the projectile schematic diagram of the projectile. In this projectile there is a gripper at the back side. This is the front side of the projectile. This is a bullet-like element. You know the bullet. Okay, though it is written here shuttle, earlier it was also called as shuttle, but nowadays as the shuttle we are basically acquainted with the name of shuttle with the wooden shuttle. So that's why it is not. We shall not call it shuttle. We shall call it either gripper or projectile. Okay, so at the behind there is a gripper. The gripper will grip the last end of the thread. Okay, so this is happening here. Then the pushed by the release of the projectile thrower. Then this projectile is pushed inside the thread by the projectile thrower or picking shoe. It passes through the thread and deposits the weft inside the warp. So this is the schematic diagram of a loom. Here this is the position of the projectile and this is the torsion rod. Torsion rod is responsible for picking of the projectile. I shall discuss later. And this is the picking arm and here the picking shoe will be there. When the picking shoe will hit the projectile will travel across the shade, across the width of the loom, and then the projectile will reach here at either side of the loom. Okay, so after that the same projectile should be brought again to this picking position. So you can see there are few projectiles are laid here, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are actually traveling towards the picking position again. So that's why more than one projectile is required for successful operation of the projectile looms. Okay, there is a conveyor chain. Okay, the conveyor chain is actually bringing the all used projectiles to the picking position again for next picking. Okay, subsequently the projectile falls and it's collected by a device which by passing under the array of the warp threads takes it at the reduced speed back to the starting point. Okay, the picking speed is much higher, but the traveling speed of the projectile by this chain, shuttle return chain, that is much slow. Here, the projectile goes up to take up a new wave. Meanwhile, the other projectiles have run after each other, making the same operation. So that I have just mentioned how the projectiles they are actually traveling to achieve their picking point, so that they can again grip the new thread and complete the insertion, weft insertion. The gripper or projectile. It is a flat, oblong shaped ballistic element. You can say ballistic element. Better picture is shown here. This is the projectile, or it is called gripper, as it can grip the weft yarn behind here at this position. Okay, here you can see the how at this position the yarn can be gripped by this gripper. Okay, so this is the open position. As soon as it will be open, okay, there will be space, and inside this space the yarn will be inserted and that will be gripped. Okay, after gripping of the yarn, then the projectile is inserted in the thread for the weft insertion. The weight of the projectile is between 20 to 60 gram, very less in mass, like just bullet of a rifle, and designed to fly with minimum air resistance while gripping the tip of the weft in a clamp located near its tail. Okay, shown here in this figure in open position from its carrier. This element, commonly referred to as projectile or gripper, is accelerated from its state of the rest to a finite velocity within a very small distance in the designated chamber, and then upon entering the reed space, it's constrained to follow a specific path created by a set of racks within the warp shade. So basically, when this projectile will be inserted inside the shade or in the reed space, then there will be projectile guide. Okay, here you can see the arm-like element. This is called guide, projectile guide. The projectile is actually getting its path inside this guide. The projectile guide is actually restricting the projectile to fly out. Otherwise, if the projectile will fly out of the shade, okay, if that will hit the weaver or the worker, they will die. There will be serious accident bullet, like the bullet when strike our body. So this is a very serious accident. That's why the projectile guide is required to control the movement of the projectile, and there should be no obstruction of the projectile during its traveling across the shade through the projectile guide. These racks preclude the possibility of projectile from flying out of the worksheet that I have just mentioned. Any obstruction in the path of the projectile created by the unclean shade would result in warp break and therefore lead to reduction of loop efficiency and deterioration in the fabric quality. If there is any obstruction, okay, due to the slackening of the warp or the entanglement of the warp ends, then there will be the rigorous warp breakage, and for the repairing of that warp breakage require much time, and that will reduce the efficiency, loom efficiency. So that's why a good quality warp beam is required so that the clear shade can be produced. So that is not very important in case of shuttle weaving. Manufacturing of a or production of a good quality warper beam is not required in case of shuttle weaving, because there the larger shade is required, and the shuttle will always traverse across the shade with the friction with the uh, warper uh, warper ends or warp ends. But here in case of uh, cylinder projectile weaving, if there will be a small friction between the warp end with the projectile, then there will be the yarn breakage. Okay, and that will attract the lower efficiency warp breakage and lower efficiency or poor efficiency of the loom. That is not at all desirable. So high quality weaver's beam is prerequisite for the successful projectile weaving. Now I shall discuss about the essential components of a projectile propulsion system, how the projectile is actually getting motion from its machine. The heart of the projectile propulsion system is a torsion rod or torsion bar. Torsion rod, this is the heart of the projectile propulsion system, because it is responsible for the motion in the projectile. In this schematic diagram, you can identify this is the torsion rod, number 6 torsion rod. This is the torsion rod. Okay, this is the most important element. This is a metallic rod, and a typical metallic composition is used for preparing this rod. This element is subjected to a specific angular distortion in every loom cycle. In every loom cycle, this rod is given a specific angular distortion, a torsion. Okay, this fixed specific annual distortion is required. If the torsional rigidity of the rod is kT Newton meter and it is twisted through an angle phi radian, then the torque Mt generated is given by this equation, Mt equal to kT into phi. This is the well-known formula, you know. So where kT can be replaced with pi d to the power 4 g divided by 32L, and that is multiplied with phi, where d is the diameter of the torsion rod in meter, L is the length of the torsion rod in meter, and g is the shear modulus of the torsion rod in Newton per meter square. So by this formula you can be able to use you can be able to calculate the torsional energy which is stored in the rod, and that is released later on for the projectile propulsion. There will be the instantaneous release of this much of energy for the projectile propulsion. Hence, the accelerating force acting on the projectile is impulsive in nature. Okay, this amount of torque is actually released instantaneously. Okay, and the projectile is hit with this much of energy instantaneously. That's why the force acting on the projectile propulsion is impulsive in nature, and impulsive force is actually uh, actually used for the propulsion of the projectile, while the corresponding vector acting on the conventional shuttle has a nature of ramp, but the peaking mechanism for the shuttle is like a ramping. Okay, the development of the energy for the shuttle insertion, that is like a ramping, that is gradual increasing of the energy. But whereas in case of projectile peaking, that is an impulsive in nature. This is the difference between the projectile insertion and the shuttle insertion. This fundamental difference in generation and transmission of peaking energy, in conjunction with the much lower mass, is instrumental in much higher value of average acceleration and consequently much higher initial velocity in flight up to 50 meter per second for a projectile as compared to maximum 50 meter per second for a conventional shuttle. So, as I have already discussed, the projectile is a very minimum mass. Okay, maximum mass is only 50 gram, and which is getting an impulsive force for the propulsion. So that due to that, there will be the very quick development of velocity and acceleration in the projectile, and that is the value is much higher than that of the shuttle. Okay, the where the shuttle velocity, maximum velocity was 15 meter per second. In case of projectile, that will be around 50 meter per second. So it is very faster than that of the shuttle. Now come to the again the mechanism, the machine part, the toggle lever linked to an oil brake. This is the toggle lever. This triangular shape lever is a toggle lever that is connected to a oil brake with number 13. At one of its end, and the torsion lever via an intermediate link. Either end of the toggle lever is connected with this torsion rod via this link, intermediate link, and this torsion lever. In the state of the rest, the three link joints are not collinear and resemble an elbow as depicted by the line diagram on the left. So these three elements, toggle lever, the intermediate link, and this torsion lever, these three elements, okay, they are basically not collinear in the rest position. Okay, this kind of configuration, not non-linear configuration, will be there during rest position. But at a given instant of time, when the nose of the peaking cam start pushing the anti-friction ball mounted on the toggle lever in the clockwise direction, this is a cam, peaking cam, and this is the anti-friction bowl. The bowl is actually situated on the toggle lever. The peaking cam will rotate in the clockwise direction. When the nose of the cam will hit the anti-friction bowl, then this rest position, this non-collinear position will convert it to a linear position. This displacement forces the joint between the toggle lever and the intermediate link to travel clockwise along the arc of a circle, pushing it in process the joint between the intermediate link and torsion lever in upward direction. So as soon as it becomes linear, then this torsion lever that will be pushed in upward direction. Due to this upward direction movement of this torsion lever, there will be the twisting or torsion created in the torsion rod. Okay, the maximum angle is phi. The phi angle or angular torsion or twist is actually inserted in this torsion rod. Now the value of the phi you can find in some book. That is a task for you. What should be the value of phi? The angular, the torsion or angular displacement of the torsion rod phi. The value of the phi you should collect from the book. That will be your task, your home task. The displacement, this upward displacement of one end of the torsion lever results in twisting of torsion rod, to which the other end of the torsion lever is rigidly fastened. Okay, so this upward displacement of the torsion lever resulting in twisting of the torsion. So this torsion lever will give or feed the torsion to the torsion rod until this nose will depress the bowl, okay, in the clockwise direction. Incidentally, one end of the torsion rod is rigidly linked to the machine frame, while its other end is splinted to picking lever. So the torsion rod is fixed at the one end and other end is actually connected to the picking lever. So as it is fixed at the one side, then only the torsion, the twist is possible to insert in the torsion rod. Otherwise, the torsion is not possible to impart. The potential energy in the twist rod keeps on building up till the end of the stroke of the picking cam. I have mentioned the torsion lever, connecting link and toggle lever assume a configuration such that the link joints become collinear. So during this pushing action of the picking nose in the bowl, okay, this angular disposition of the toggle lever and intermediate link that should be linear in nature. Such a state is depicted in the main body of the diagram. So this linear configuration is given here in this main body of the diagram. As the nose of the picking cam moves away from the anti-friction bowl, as this nose it just moves away from the anti-friction bowl, then this the intermediate link and the toggle lever become free. So then its linear position or linear configuration that will be converted to a again non-linear configuration in this shape. So as soon as this will become a non-linear configuration and free, then there will be the release of the torsional energy or the movement which was stored during this uh, movement of the cam or pushing of the cam to the follower. So as soon as the energy will be released, then the picking lever that will hit along with the picker that will hit to the projectile for initiating the picking. So this is the mechanism of the torsion bar by which the picking of the projectile loom is initiated. So as the three link joints remain perfectly collinear, energy in the torsion rod remains trapped and stored. So that is mentioned. So here this diagram is basically the actual diagram. Okay, the previous diagram was a line diagram, and this is the actual diagram or three-dimensional figure of all the elements you can identify. Okay, so this is the cam. This is the nose of the cam. Here the follower will be there. This is the toggle lever. Toggle lever is connected to the well brake. This is the well brake. The cam is connected to some gears for the continuous movement that is moving along with the loom RPM. And this is the intermediate link. This is the torsion bar. Okay, and this is the picking arm. And here this is the projectile. This is the picking shoe. Okay, these are the projectile guides, and here this is the reed. Okay, so in this direction the wave will be inserted or the projectile will be inserted across the thread. Okay, the moment this condition is disturbed, that means the linear configuration is disturbed, the collinear link joint collapse to the elbow configuration, forcing the sharp clockwise rotation of the joint between the picking lever and torsion rod. This rotation is translated to a linear motion, the picker shoe, and hence the projectile, already I have mentioned. The all important disturbances to equilibrium state of the collinear link joints is created by collision between the small anti-friction bowl mounted on the picking arm and the sharp upturned nose of the extreme left of the toggle lever extension. Already I have discussed all these points. It is observed that the design and location of the nose of the picking cam vis-a-vis that anti-friction ball on the toggle lever govern the generation and the storage of the picking energy in torsion rod, while location of the anti-friction ball on the picking cam governs the instantaneous release of the energy. So how much energy to be stored, that depends on the design of this picking cam, the nose of the cam and the bowl. Okay, and the position of the bowl or the location of the bowl, that will decide the instantaneous release of this energy. Okay, so this is the design aspect. So how much high or how much angle to be inserted or to be twisted in the torsion bar, that depends on the design of the picking shoe and the anti-friction ball, and when the energy will be released, that is designed based on the position of the picking cam and the anti-friction ball on the toggle lever. Now I shall discuss about the insertion cycle of the projectile machine. Insertion cycle. What are the weaving cycle, you can say, or wave insertion cycle in the projectile machine. The projectile, which is number as 1, there are actually A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 8. These numbers of steps are there. Okay, by describing all these steps, okay, how a projectile is able to insert a wave, that can be discussed. Okay, the projectile, which is number as 1, you can identify the projectile here, 1, is put in launching position. Okay, now when the projectile will be put in launching position, projectile launching position, the wave is held at its end by the wave carrier. Wave carrier, here this is the wave carrier. The wave carrier will hold the wave at its end, okay, at its gripper position, and is controlled by the wave tensioner 3. The wave tensioner is the wave tensioner 3 that will control the tension of the wave. That is very, very important, keeping the uniform tension throughout the wave insertion cycle. By the wave brake 4, wave brake 4 is there, that will also helping for keeping the uniform tension, as well as that will helping for release of the predetermined length of the yarn. As much as length is required, accurate length is required for the wave insertion based on the reed space or reed width, that much of yarn will be released by this wave brake. And the eyelet 7, situated in the proximity of the feeding tube, feeding bobbin 8. This is the feeding bobbin 8, from which the yarn is withdrawn, and the yarn will be coming across the eyelet 7. The eyelet will prevent the necessary balloon also. Otherwise, during the wave insertion, there will be the balloon formation. Okay, the eyelets also will prevent the balloon formation and keeping the tension uniform. The wave carrier 2 gets open after the projectile clamp has got hold on the end of the wave thread. So after the projectile will be in the position, okay, then the projectile, the gripper become open. Okay, the wave carrier gets open after the projectile clamp has got hold on the end of the wave thread. Okay, as a result, the wave yarn will be inserted inside the gripper, and the gripper will clamp or grip the end of the wave for the insertion. The projectile is launched and crosses the shed, dragging with itself the wave, while the wave tensioner 3 and the wave brake 4 operate in a way so as to minimize the stress on the wave yarn. The critical phases are particularly the initial acceleration phase and the final stop phase in the collector box. So after the gripping has been completed, in the third stage, stage C, the projectile will be inserted. Okay, the insertion will be done by the torsion rod mechanism discussed in the last slide. So when the insertion will be done, the projectile will come to the either end of the loom. Okay, and during the wave insertion, the yarn is having a velocity profile. Initially, there will be the high acceleration and high velocity, and gradually that will be stopped, or the velocity or acceleration will be reduced, and that is controlled by this wave tensioner 3 and the wave brake 4. Okay, you can see the position of the 3 now has been reduced to control the wave tension, to keep the yarn tension uniform across the picking cycle. Now in the next stage 4, or this stage, the projectile on the one hand and the wave carrier 2 on the other take up the right position to build up the selvage. Okay, now for selvage preparation come to the D point. Here the web carrier 2 closes. Okay, it will close the web or grip the web. So web T1 is now gripped by both ends, by the web carrier in this side, left hand side, by the element 2 or the web carrier, and either other side by the gripper 1. Now web T1 is clamped by both sides at this position. The thread is cut by the scissor 6. Now a scissor will come forward to cut the thread at a particular position. Now after cutting, still there will be the extra length which will be protruding outside the shade. Okay, so this amount of length should be inserted back to the selvage of the fabric. Okay, that is called tucked-in. So that's why the projectile loom is having some tucked-in selvage. Okay, the web is beaten by the reed while the web carrier 2 moves back to its initial position, and the web tensioner opens further to recover the web piece and keep it under tension. The projectile is brought back to the machine zone. So these are the normal steps. Okay, you can understand from the figure also. In the last stage, G, this should not be D, this should be G. The selvage needle 9. You can see the selvage needle here. This is the selvage needle. The selvage needle 9 insert the web ends into the subsequent set, which is called tuck-in selvage. The selvage tuck-in. Okay, both sides you can see the tuck-in has been occurred. The extra length of the yarn which is protruding, which was cut by after cutting by the cutter, the length was protruding. The extra length will be just tucked in inside the thread again. Okay, so now the new projectile will again placed for launching the position. So when these big operations, cutting and tucking operations are going on, the new projectile, okay, which will be just getting in the position for the next web insertion. So in this way, the picking cycle or the insertion cycle of the projectile machine will going on. So student, I shall stop here. The next part of the lecture I shall discuss in the second part. Okay, happy learning.